Chances are, if you're watching this video, you'll own at least one Apple product. Maybe you even own more than one, but what if you had to start from scratch? Would you still keep them or replace them? There is a bit of a story behind this one. If you've been following some of my community posts, I recently mentioned that I'd sold my Mac Mini M4 after only acquiring it in October. It's a long story, but I'll link the full thing below if you're interested. Anyway, it got me thinking, there probably was a version of events where I kept the Mac Mini as my main computer and didn't, for instance, own a laptop at all, or even an iPad. And yet, these days, Apple sell a lot of products. But if you had all of yours taken away, have you ever thought about what you'd replace them with from their latest lineup? Maybe instead you'd buy something that's not made by Apple, or maybe you'd hang on to the money and wouldn't replace them at all. Well, in this video, I'll walk you through my thoughts, and I'd love to hear what kind of from scratch tech setup you would build in the comments below. I'm going to break this down into 4 elements: your computer, your phone, any kind of tablet you might choose, and then accessories as a broader category. Let's start off with your computer. I'm going to flat out discount things like the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio, which, to be frank, are incredibly niche devices designed with an incredibly niche audience in mind. If you think you need one of those devices, you probably already own one and nothing will be able to replace it. And that leaves the more mainstream ones. There's the iMac, the Mac Mini, and also the MacBook Pro and Air models. Your mileage may vary, but having experimented with all of these, I really wouldn't recommend having both a fixed desktop computer as well as a laptop. I promise I will explain more about that when we look at the iPads, but there is just too much overlap. So for me, it kind of depends on what work you need to do and where. If you work from the same desk for most of the time, I'd say grab the iMac for an all-in-one computing solution in a box. You can get it with color matched keyboards and mice, and of course, there's a lovely 4.5K screen which houses the computing gear too. It's pretty perfect for a student bedroom or a family computer that's going to live in a kitchen, and anything where it's as much of a piece of furniture as it is a powerful workstation. But when I used to own an iMac, it was a 27-inch 5K screen, one of the last Intel models, and really a 21.5-inch screen doesn't really cut it these days for proper productivity work. My advice here would probably be to go for the Mac Mini, which I know is the one that I just sold, but hear me out. This little bit of kit will let you have a highly affordable, super powerful computer that's going to let you pick out your own choice of monitor, keyboard, mouse, speakers, you name it. I don't actually like Apple's own keyboards that much, and the less said about the Magic Mouse, the better. Far better to pick one that really works for you, like the Logitech MX Master Series. Factor in a little bit of extra budget to buy a little dock to expand the ports. There's a few brands that sell ones that match the Mac Mini perfectly and even let you expand the memory so that you can save on the Apple tax for having extra storage. But I reckon the coolest thing here is that it takes up such little room on your desk. I'm old enough to remember having to cater for a massive tower PC sat around my desk when I was a student. So the fact that you can have something so powerful that literally fits in the palm of your hand and acts as the center of your computing setup is just incredible. On the other hand, if you do the kind of work where you have to move around a lot between offices, or maybe you travel a lot and you still want the ability to have a full productivity workhorse with you, or maybe you're a workaholic and you want to work on the sofa sometimes, or in bed, or when you're camping, yeah, no judgment here. My advice would be to go with either a MacBook Pro or one of the newer MacBook Airs, and which one is best for you will depend on 2 things: how much you need to travel and the sheer complexity of the work you're going to throw at it. I reckon the MacBook Pros are probably a must if you're a creative professional, so you might be into heavy graphic or photo editing or audio production, or in my case, editing multiple 4K videos on top of one another and then churning out multiple video content projects every week. For me, the difference between exporting a project in 5 minutes versus 30 minutes cost me money, so I'm happy to pay for it. In terms of battery life, pure power, and that amazing OLED screen, plus a couple of extra ports compared to the Air model, I do think I'm a kind of user that really makes the most of this model. As a business investment, this thing has paid for itself many times over, but the trade-off is that they do look pretty chunky now, certainly next to the latest MacBook Airs. And those Air models are actually pretty powerful too. They'll crunch through basic video edits and photo retouching in no time, plus all your life admin, emails, and the rest. You will need to factor in a little bit of budget to increase the number of ports that you get. Again, don't get any of Apple's options because there are tons of portable docks and dongles available third party. But yeah, they're a great machine, and to be honest, I'd recommend 90% of people I know to buy a MacBook Air over a MacBook Pro. You might also want to consider having some kind of desk setup where you can still connect either of these laptops to a screen and a keyboard for longer stints of work to avoid eye straining and putting your body in that hunched over laptop look. But yeah, I just think you can't really go wrong with a MacBook. For me, I'm going to be selecting the 14-inch MacBook Pro as my main computer, but if I didn't do this job, I'd probably ditch the MacBook and go for a Mac Mini as my main desktop setup. Next, let's talk phones. Last year, Apple did something really interesting with their iPhone 17 lineup. They completely leveled the playing field when it comes to screen brightness and the refresh rate. And that's all great because these days, if you want a new iPhone, really the only main question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of camera do you want? If you want something super basic on the camera front, but with a slightly bigger screen and a thin form factor, the iPhone Air is now available. Well, I tried it, I hated it, and the full story is probably up here somewhere if you want to know why. If you want the best possible camera in the business, just grab one of the Pro models. The zoom in particular is absolutely astonishing. I took this footage at a gig that I went to in December, and I still can't quite believe the detail that I'm able to get from our seats, which were a long way from the stage. If you've got massive hands and a big bank balance to go with them, you can go and get the massive Pro Max version, but other than a big battery, there's actually nothing to separate the advanced features from the regular size Pro model. So I do make content for a living, so I do genuinely need some of the extra power in the Pro phone. I often use my phone to take footage on, which makes its way into these videos, but if you don't need all of that, I reckon the phone to go for is the regular iPhone 17. A genuinely great camera set, including the brand new selfie camera with the new sensor. It's got a fast chip that's going to run the latest iPhone OS for years to come, and it comes in all the best color options too. For me, it's a no-brainer. So in my tech stack, I'm going to be putting the iPhone 17 in there, in blue, if you don't mind. Next up, iPads. Now, before we get into any of this, my friend John, who also runs a tech channel, said something in a recent video, and I couldn't have put it better myself. He said,
"But there's just something about the iPad that just doesn't feel as good as a MacBook with macOS."
John also said that if you value your life, you should definitely like and subscribe to this video, but I was a bit embarrassed about that, so I left that part out. Anyway, I'll link his full video down below, but in all seriousness, I think he is spot on. iPads have become a long way in the last 12 months when it comes to working as a partner to a main computer, or in some cases, even a kind of makeshift laptop replacement, but they're still not quite there, so I'm going to be pretty harsh here. In our fantasy tech stack build out, if you can't tell me in a single sentence why you need an iPad in your setup, just save your money and don't buy one. That feels like quite a big thing to say because I've made a lot of videos about iPads and I'll continue to do so, but they are a difficult recommend for someone who, for example, already owns a decent laptop and just wants something to consume content on. Okay, maybe you're a digital artist and you genuinely have a reason to have the thinnest, most powerful iPad ever made with the most expensive Apple Pencil and the ability to hook it up to a display and continue your work from there. Or maybe you're really into digital notes and you want something that you can use to annotate documents and sign contracts and that sort of thing. And maybe you're a filmmaker and you like to use your iPad like this. I don't think anyone does that, but Apple seem to think it's possible. See, I reckon this is the right thing to do. If you have a desktop Mac that lives in an office setup and you need something that will occasionally let you be somewhere else, getting work done, grab an iPad for that kind of use case. It won't let you do all the stuff that you can do on a Mac, but it is a portable, flexible, and versatile kind of in-between product that's better than an iPhone and worse than a Mac. Plus, it does a few things that neither a phone nor a Mac can do. Oh, and again, Apple sell really nice, expensive floating keyboards, but there are tons of cheaper and arguably better ones available to suit any budget and taste. I'd say save your money and buy one of those instead. Now, whilst the crazy thin iPad Pro models with the beautiful tandem OLED screens might be tempting, trust me, from my experience, if you spend upwards of $1,000 on one of these and end up barely using it, you'll end up hating yourself more than that time I realized I was wearing my 7-year-old's underwear by accident, I should add. So yeah, get the 11-inch iPad Air or the iPad Mini if you absolutely must. And that brings us along to accessories, and there is a lot of ground we could cover here. There's keyboards, mice, trackpads, speakers, monitors, AirTags, headsets, and lots more. And again, being completely honest, pretty much all of them I can take or leave. There are better speakers out there, certainly smarter ones. If we want to have a cheap pop at our friend Siri, hopefully the new Gemini integration will start to sort out that particular problem this year. Likewise, there are tons of great location tag devices too, most of which will now work with Apple's Find My service. Again, I featured these third-party tags a couple of months ago and they work brilliantly. And then I know there is a lot of love for Apple TV, but let's be honest, it's not seen much love from Apple on the hardware or the software front for a while now. And whilst I have owned them in the past, most modern TVs have all the apps I'd ever want to use. Plus, that remote control is nothing short of horrible. And Apple have somehow got themselves in a position where they have a physical device called Apple TV, as well as a software service called Apple TV. Yeah, weird that. So I'm going to make this really easy. There's only one accessory I'd be keeping or rebuying if I was getting my tech stack started up from scratch, and it's the AirPods Pro Generation 3. There is a saying that third time's a charm, and whilst I did love my previous Gen 2s, Apple have improved on them in pretty much every single way with the Gen 3s. The only real problem I have with them is that I wear them so often they get really horribly dirty. I think that's probably my problem rather than Apple's, but if anyone has got any handy solutions for keeping these wireless headphones clean, yeah, I'm all ears. And that is the kind of pun that I'm not going to top today, so I should probably start wrapping things up. It is important to know I have selected brand new devices here from the latest lineup of Apple gear. Now, if you're working with a fixed budget and you're having a bit of a reset with your tech stack, there is a big argument to say never buy new. In fact, I'd almost always recommend having a good trawl through the Apple refurbished section before you make a purchase. Because for the same money you'd invest in a new device, you might be able to grab a phone or computer or iPad or accessory that's not that old and way more powerful than the one you might be about to spend lots of money on. If you drop back a generation, you might also benefit from a more powerful chip, bigger storage or more RAM, and it'll actually future-proof you in a far better way than if you bought new. You get a brand new battery and a full warranty, so it's often a great way to get into the Apple ecosystem if you are on a tight budget. Now, I've mentioned this before, but there's a great site called Refurb Tracker that lets you put in the details of the device that you want, and it'll send you automatic email alerts as soon as something with that exact spec comes available so that you can snap it up before anyone else sees it. I will link that in the description below. It's not sponsored or anything, just a really clever, great little tool. Okay folks, back over to you. What's in your current setup? And if you were starting from scratch, what gets to stay and what gets the boot? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're into Apple content, check this one out. You'll probably love it. See you next time.